it for now. We have loaded into Asset Plant as we're looking at the main base of our Korean Protoss. It is Stats.
That's right. Our pro gamer from Splice, one of the most accomplished players in the world, but over on the other side, a rough 2017, but coming back strong again this year. From Arma Team, it's ShoWTimE.
Of course, worth mentioning as well, both these guys had a rough 2017 when it comes to the global finals. ShoWTimE missed out, and we were all like, damn, how did that happen?
I know,
because
so
everyone
weird.
Still saw him as the best Protoss in Europe, but he wasn't here last year, and from Stats, all of us thought that he was going to have a deep run, you know, at least the semi-finals like he always gets. But he lost in the group stage last year in that tough group with TY and, of course, Special, who had this out-of-world performance. So I'm sure that they're both eager to once again make it into the playoffs.
Yeah, and, you know, I feel like they both have a reasonably good chance, but here they are playing a PvP against each other, right? And would you agree whoever falls down here into the meat grinder that is Haas, who gets to watch all their builds? I mean, that's a tough one, right?
No. You really think Haas is going to be dark, Theosis?
Well, it's pretty clear to me. I mean, ShoWTimE 2-0 him. I'm sure Haas can 2-1 him. Come on.
We'll talk about it later, though.
Okay,
We'll talk about it later. Now, I'm just excited to see. I'm expecting a lot of Stargate here. I'm absolutely expecting some Phoenix play as well, but I think it's so tough to make predictions going into the mid-game because we saw Stats open up with the Adepts against Haas. Is he going to do that against ShoWTimE? Maybe one of the games, but I'm expecting more Stalker-oriented openings. I just think he played against Haas in a very unique way because he knew who he was going up against. Against ShoWTimE, you don't really want to open up with Adepts. If he opens Stalker Sentry and goes for a quick expand, things can get dicey.
You know, some pros, though, yeah, and we see that it's actually a completely different build from Stats, so good call there, going for the Sentry Stalker, whereas ShoWTimE with the double Adept. But some pros will actually dodge going Phoenix if they think their opponent's is going Phoenix, because Phoenix versus Phoenix, Roddy, as I'm sure you know above all, is a crazy matchup.
There's a lot of skill in right-clicking on the ground as many times as you can, to stack them on top of each other. Don't you try to lowball that skill ceiling. No,
Protoss is a hard race, as they say, right?
Absolutely. Well, this probe is going to get picked off. At least Stats will know that ShoWTimE opened up with the Adepts. And if it's 2 Adepts, it's often at least 4, if not 6 Adepts. And, well, we are going to see some Stargate play, but I think that Stats will pretty much always open up with Phoenix here because he knows about the Adepts, right? And Adepts into Oracles is just not something you see very often, because that means you have nothing to fight Stalkers if your opponent would be aggressive.
That is true, unless you're SOS, of course, and then you just go Mass Oracle, Mass Adept. But I would tend to agree with you on this. Now, with the quicker expansion coming up from Stats, if they do both go Phoenixes, I feel like that favors our Korean Protoss.
No, absolutely. We'll see what ShoWTimE decides to do, if that's going to be Phoenix or Oracles. This is going to be interesting. I like it already, though. It's a clash of styles with the Adepts on one side, the Sentry Stalker on the other one. Phoenix for ShoWTimE, Phoenix for Stats. So we are going to see some good old right-clicking on the ground. That Nexus is not that much later, though, Tosus. Like, I can live with it. Yeah, especially because ShoWTimE has spent less gas on the gateway units, right?
That's true, and that's fair. And he's going to figure out reasonably quickly that this is Phoenixes he's up against. I'm excited just to see, Roddy, if they both stay on Phoenix.
I think so.
Because sometimes you'll see someone be like, okay, no, I'm going right into Blink, I'm going right into Gateways, or maybe a timing attack. You know, I don't want to deal with this, but let's see.
I think it's very hard to transition into Blink while Period actually... Yeah, you want to be very careful. You can't afford to lose a single Phoenix, guys. This is worse than Muda versus Muda. Obviously, it's important for Stats that he keeps these Adepts out, because if he would use his Phoenixes to fight the Adepts, there is a chance that the Phoenixes from ShoWTimE sweep in, and if they just get 3 or 4 hits off, that would already be massive. Now, talking a little bit about transitioning out of Phoenix, this is a question I get very often. It's like, what do you do if your opponent goes Phoenix and you have Phoenix too? My answer is always you build more Phoenix.
Yes.
I think it is so hard to transition. If there is a sweet spot to transition out of it, I would say once you get 3 bases up and running, you get a couple of shield batteries to protect your lower Phoenix count, and then you can throw down a Twilight Council, then maybe you can go into Archons eventually. But doing it before you have 3 bases, there is just too much opportunity for your opponent to pick off all your workers.
And you know, that can be a little bit dangerous even if you switch later on, because we see them both going Phoenix, so do you go out of Phoenix is a big question here. But the other question is, When are you getting your third Nexus? Oftentimes you want to get that very quickly. Are you going to be the guy who gets all his pylons out on the map, or are you going to be the guy that's trying to kill those pylons? And then, of course, how quickly are we going to get Phoenix range?
Yeah, I would say most of the time you get a fleet beacon once you have proper 2-base saturation or maybe a few probes. Before that, every now and then Protoss players get weird and crazy. ShoWTimE really wants to pick off a couple of probes. He made 6 adapts. Now that's not game ending if you don't do anything with it. But you kind of do want to do something, you know, get like 3-4 probes just to even up the probe count, because you can see that Stats had created a minor economic advantage for himself.
Well, you know, he did have that quicker Nexus, so the 5 probes definitely does make a difference. But that's not something that you can't overcome if you're tight on every other part of your game as ShoWTimE here.
No, absolutely. There we do have that fleet beacon going down, and I think that ShoWTimE is going to do the exact same thing. And we're probably going to see both players go up to 3 bases. You know, I'd love to see Toasters.
Yeah.
Just both of them build Mass Phoenix. Neither of them wants to take a fight on the other side of the map, you know, in danger of fighting against a sentry with Guardian Shield that can have a massive impact, or shield batteries, or just quicker reinforcements. Carriers eventually.
Oh, absolutely. It's hilarious what Phoenix versus Phoenix turns into if you don't kill each other. Eventually, you're going for things you're like, well, a mothership could be good here.
Absolutely.
You know, definitely if you can get into carriers, they eventually will be better than the Phoenixes. But you got to be careful, because if you rush into anything, your opponent will have more Phoenixes, and guess what, Roddy? Oh, that'll kill you.
I do feel that the fleet beacon of ShoWTimE was a tiny bit late. There is a chance that if Stats starts moving out, let's say when his Anion Pulse Crystals are like 80% done, he can take a fight right when his finishes up, and all you need is 7 or 8 seconds. You pick off 4 or 5 Phoenix without taking any damage, you will win the game. So ShoWTimE is going to have to play this very smart. I love the Sentry in the mix as well.
Oh, it's really, really good. Even those Stalkers, I mean, you may as well bring them. But one thing I really like are these pylons on the map. Someone always gets these pylons out in Phoenix versus Phoenix, and the other guy has to go kill them off. You have to be so careful, though.
This is where the window starts, though. Anion Pulse Crystals is done. The one...
Oh, it didn't even start yet.
Oh my goodness, that is a massive mistake.
Okay, so in this situation, if you realize your opponent... Oh, this is bad, Roddy.
I think you're dead,
this is bad.
I think you're just dead. How is ShoWTimE supposed to engage? The only thing he can do is just turn around very quickly and dive on top of them.
Okay, I mean, he kind of gets on top of him, but this is going kind of poorly for ShoWTimE so far, especially now that he gets under that Guardian Shield. Oh my god!
Well, that went as good as it could have gone, I think, for ShoWTimE. All things considered, you gotta wait. I think if you're ShoWTimE, I mean, as ugly as it is, I just feel like you gotta wait. Or maybe pick off a reinforcement and then dive on top of it one more time. But his range is so late. Oh my goodness.
He needs to get behind him just like this. Catch the reinforcements. Great move right there. Push up the opposing Phoenixes against the wall. If you have the same amount and they have range, you can kind of fight them like that. But it looks like Stats, he chooses to run away for now. He wants to get his lead a bit bigger.
Yeah, I mean, he has created an advantage, right? He picked off a couple workers there, he picked off more Phoenixes, he's okay with it, and obviously we see everything. For all that Stats knew, Anion Pulse Crystals was about to finish up for ShoWTimE, and he doesn't want to throw away his lead. But, well, ShoWTimE dodged the bullet there because the game absolutely could have ended.
Yeah, and the thing is, it's still very Stats favored. He was mining from his third base much earlier, just like his natural much earlier. Killing those probes, just he's in a dominating spot, no doubt about that. So ShoWTimE, I feel like he has to play a very defensive game here. Maybe some shield batteries, making sure he's nailing his chronos. Maybe get +1. Maybe try to spice it up a little bit with a mothership or something.
He's very deep in enemy territory, which means he can kill a couple of probes, and then he has to recall. If he does not recall, he's gonna end up losing almost all of his Phoenixes. ShoWTimE, you gotta get out of here. How painful will it be?
Well, that's gonna be that, Roddy.
Why does he fight?
Well, if you recall there, you're losing everything anyways, right? Pretty quickly.
Well, then you would have lost maybe 3 or 4. Now you just lose everything. And what on earth are you supposed to do other than tap out? GG, Stats takes game number 1.
Well, to be fair, you know, I think he rightfully looked at that and said, I am so far behind. I got to make something happen. Maybe if Stats had committed deeper on the map, he gets a bunch of probes and can get out of there in time. But, you know, it's rough. Phoenix versus Phoenix is just so unforgiving.
Yeah, I mean, opening up with the 6 adapts, once again, you're not looking to end the game with 6 adapts, but if you make that many adapts and you have Phoenix against Phoenix, The ideal scenario is that the moment that your opponent starts sending probes to the low ground, you shade in with 4 or 5 adepts, and then Stats has to choose. Does he lift adepts or does he ignore them? If he ignores them, the adepts can kill a lot of probes.
Yeah.
If he starts lifting the adepts, then maybe the Phoenixes of ShoWTimE could sweep in.
That's the scariest thing in the world.
Yeah, but Stats handled that scenario incredibly well. ShoWTimE didn't get close to picking off workers, and from that point on, I mean, you give this man a finger, he's going to take your entire hand. 5 probes is enough for Stats to seal the deal.
And I tell you, ShoWTimE had a cookie, but Stats did not allow him that glass of milk. And that means that we go into game number 2 with our Korean Protoss leading this. I mean, I think you could look at this group and say that Stats was maybe a slight favorite over everybody. This might not be the order in which you saw everything, but ShoWTimE still has a chance. You know, if it's not Phoenix versus Phoenix, and even if it is, you know, sometimes he'll get his next a little bit quicker. You know, Stats open up with the Adepts and didn't get the damage, then suddenly the shoe is on the other foot, right?
You know what that game reminded me of a bit, since it was Acid Plant as well. GSL versus the World. ShoWTimE had a show match against Classic, you know, in the Team Maro versus Team Sero. And I feel it was pretty identical. It was also a Phoenix against Phoenix.
Yeah.
ShoWTimE played good, but the Korean Protoss was always a little bit ahead. So maybe avoid the Phoenix scenario altogether.
Yeah, if you're going Phoenix, just make one and hit a 3-gate, all right? Now we're starting game number 2 on Blue Shift. In the bottom left from Germany, it's ShoWTimE.
Stats. Okay, now it's ShoWTimE, but I'll just do the reverse one. On the right top side, we're looking in the main base of the Red Protoss. This is also ShoWTimE. Show Stats, come on.
ShoWTimE twice.
Oh,
okay.
No, poor Stats.
I don't know what's going on.
Camera time. Well, Stats is actually in the left bottom side. But
yeah. We see that out. It's Stats!
Yes!
And if we could jump over to the top right real quick, to the Nexus. It's Stats! We're not treating him even, are we? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So Blue Shift is going to be our map. Obviously a map where Phoenix play is a possibility, but I'm not expecting it here. I am expecting more traditional unit compositions, and to go back to the argument that Todd made earlier on the couch, there's a really good chance that you will see some of that 2-base Blink Stalkers, couple of Immortals, and then the Adepts, because the Adepts with Resonating Glaives are just incredibly good. If either of the two goes Zealots, Adepts are all the rage right now.
Yeah, it has definitely come into like way back into the meta in Korea at least. And
in Europe too, I think.
Definitely something we could see, but I want to throw this out there for you, right? Stats got his probe over there pretty quickly. He made the second gateway be built on top of the first gateway and the Cybernetics core below. I almost feel like he should be stylish here and go Prism 3 gate and just kill that Cyber core so quickly and just free win the game. That's what I'm feeling right now. What do you think, Roddy?
I mean, he's opening up with Adepts, so I think it's a little less likely right now.
2 Adepts into a Robo? Come on.
No, that's not a thing. Who goes 2 Adepts into a Robo?
With Stalkers, man. Let's do it.
Yeah, but he's going Adepts.
I see that juicy Cybernetics core right there.
I feel you, but I don't think it's going to happen. The Adepts could just
see, that's what SOS would do in this game. He'd be like, oh, I got you now.
Yeah, even if that was his plan, he may just cancel the Adepts and be like, you know what? I'm going to go for Stalkers. So ShoWTimE is kind of doing what we said, right? Maybe avoid the Phoenix against Phoenix scenario altogether. And now I am so curious. ShoWTimE might do what you just mentioned. Maybe we'll see a Robo in Gateway number 3 here. And that wouldn't be that bad against the Stargate. Instead, it's going to be a Twilight. That's also not bad against the Stargate.
No, absolutely. That's kind of the side you want to be on. But I never feel bad for the Stargate player.
It comes down to execution.
Yeah, like you get your few Phoenixes or maybe your Oracles, you go into Immortals, and you can definitely just play a normal game from there.
I think against Twilight, I would actually prefer to be an Oracle player rather than a Phoenix player, because Phoenix is not bad, but you're going to have to work really hard, and you have to play it so safe, then you kind of have to do the damage early, because the longer you wait, obviously the less impactful the economic damage that your Phoenixes will do is going to be, but also the higher that Stalker count becomes. And trying to harass with 3-4 Phoenix if your opponent has 8 Blink Stalkers, in general, that is just very, very tough.
Yeah, you always end up with like 1 red Phoenix and 1 yellow Phoenix.
You know what could happen here? Stats could lift the probe of ShoWTimE that's protecting the ramp.
Oh, that is so handsome.
I've seen it before.
I want to see it so badly right now. Here he comes. Oh, there were too many Stalkers there.
What the... Oh, the Cybercore warping! Why?
Okay.
Why? I guess he's afraid.
Whatever was the quickest. That's where you're slapping your hand on the keyboard. You're like, I don't want to lose this game!
I guess it has more HP, right? And maybe he feels that if he wipes in a pylon or a battery there, that
That's
6
true.
adepts can gun it down.
Yeah. That is actually a really good point. We've seen that before, that some players will just let that finish and bully their way through. But with this many Stalkers, I think he has to turn around.
I really wish that Phoenix would have came into play and lift that probe. That's
Yeah.
a play that I've seen before, and obviously something that Stats is absolutely capable of executing. This is not going that well for Stats. Hey.
No.
Imagine.
Too bad you can't cancel that, right? Maybe in a future patch, Roddy, we can hope. Now,
Recall does need a buff, doesn't it?
well, it's getting a half buff coming up here. But the Phoenix is flying out now, seeing if they can get some harassment done. But that is a hell of a lot of Blink Stalkers going across the map right now.
Yep, and there's not a single Immortal out yet, so sure, these Phoenixes are going to be able to deal quite a bit of damage here, but the Stats have enough at home. The batteries are not done yet. There's a lot of potential here for ShoWTimE to get something done. He guns down a Stalker immediately.
Yeah, and look at this. This pressure just so heavy at the moment. Trying to target down these Stalkers. The battery's definitely helping out Stats quite a bit, keeping him alive. The second battery going to finish just in the nick of time as well.
I mean, Stats needs that Immortal. The Immortal is almost out, but as long as the Immortal's not out, then this is obviously kind of awkward to fight. The Stalkers have bigger range than the Adepts, so all that Stats is doing right now is buying time for Big Daddy Immortal.
Yeah, and as soon as he sees that Immortal, he does, in fact, back up. Now, Roddy, how do you like to play from this side as the Blink guy? I feel like you're supposed to take that third Nexus as quickly as you can.
I agree. You stay on 2 gases for a little while longer because you're losing probes, and if you're losing probes already, you don't want to take additional gases too quickly because that means you have less mineral income. I would get charged, get attack upgrades, and just go up to 3 bases while only mining off 2 gas.
Yeah, no, I think that that's a great way. If you get that swarm of gateway units, you can deny the third of your opponent.
Yep.
An Immortal push isn't just going to kill you right off the bat. But if you delay that too much, they're going to hit this critical Immortal count that just makes your Stalkers so weak.
No, I'm totally with you. This is a moment where Zealots would be fantastic because Stats, because he opened up with a Stargate, like, there's nothing that's protecting these Immortals against Zealots with charge, right? I don't like that ShoWTimE is going for an Immortal and taking 2 gases himself right now.
Yeah.
I liked what you said a lot better, but let's see how this plays out for our German brother.
Yeah, like, I mean, if you catch up on the Immortal count, I guess you're kind of doing okay in a way, but after a certain amount of time, Blink Stalkers lose all power in PvP. They're, you know, it's like Adepts in PvT or Roaches, you know, against Protoss late game. It's like they just don't work that well once you get a big army.
Now this is a moment where I would love to see Stats go for Adepts. I really think that would make a lot of sense. He's going to scout. He should see the first Zealots already being warped in. I think he's going to have a very good idea. Good job there, picking off one of the observers of ShoWTimE. ShoWTimE is going for a lot of gateways, 5 of them at once being warped in. Adepts would be brilliant here for Stats.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on that one, but ShoWTimE is really getting ready for a big attack here. Look at that, 6 gates coming up. I feel like he's going to just grab a couple Archons with the Prism as this +1 finishes up and go for the throat, it seems.
Well, Stats is going for charge as well. I think you're spot on there, obviously, but if Stats stays on 2 bases, then I mean, these fights, I think they're always a little bit awkward, right? Because Archons and Immortals, Archons don't have that much range, so there isn't that much micro potential. Most micro there is for the Archons is make sure they stay alive, juggle them with the Warp Prism, juggle them back to the, you know, back of the front, army, so to speak, so they can gain some HP again. I mean, upgrade-wise, it's slightly in favor of Stats. It's a pretty even game. We'll see where it goes.
Well, ShoWTimE is actually just taking his third base. He is still getting the Prism, so it's not like we can't see an attack or at least some harassment come up. He does have a lot of gates, but I feel like his position in relation to Stats isn't going to really improve. I mean, you see this hallucination coming through in scouting. Stats is going to see what's going on, realize, oh, I just take a slightly later third, and his upgrades and unit composition just stay a step ahead.
Yeah, Stats' army is definitely a little bit more powerful now because ShoWTimE is that heavy on the Stalkers. Now, Stalkers are not completely useless because the one thing that Stalkers do have is that obviously you can blink to, let's say, the side of a battle where they can stay out of range of your enemy's Immortal. Maybe you can get a cancel on this Nexus.
That's nice.
Yep, that's actually very big. I mean, utilize the mobility, right? That's the one thing that they do have. And this might actually force Stats to make an attack. And then if ShoWTimE defends, he's suddenly in a phenomenal position.
Yeah, certainly. And look at that, he's getting ready for this as well. Trying to set off some of the shields of these Immortals in case he were to attack. But the way that ShoWTimE's running around right now, it doesn't feel like Stats can really successfully do so.
Yeah, I mean, ShoWTimE is buying time. He knows that obviously now he's going to be economically ahead because he's mining off 3 bases, unlike his opponent. He can always recall his Stalkers as well. He's going to go into the main base. ShoWTimE is going to try to buy even more time here. Okay, he's going to try to gun down the Phoenix.
I mean, a decent lift. Oh my god. Oh, he actually gets the Prism.
That's awesome.
And a nice recall.
If you're talking about buying time, you pull the army out of position and you take out the War Prism. That means that Stats now has to wait for the next Prism to come out before he can even think of attacking. That was very well done by ShoWTimE.
Yeah, this was great. I feel like just tactically, he's way outdone Stats in this game. But Stats has 4 Immortals, he has his Archons out, he has +2 attack. There's a lot of good things going on right now for Stats as well.
A lot of Zealots on both sides. +2 is almost done for ShoWTimE. That's obviously very important. I mean, normally you would say Defender's advantage is massive here, right? That War Prism can really help out as well to save some of the key units for ShoWTimE. He can load an Archon back to his shield battery, for instance. Adapts being annoying in the natural. That's a good move here by Stats, but normally ShoWTimE should be able to make this hold.
Yeah, I think you're pretty much right about that. And he actually moves out for the engagement. Kind of surprising there by ShoWTimE to come out and when he's actually ahead.
No. Oh my goodness, he ignored the Phoenix. That means he's going to end up losing 2 Immortals here. ShoWTimE did not have to move out there, and then leaving the 2 Immortals behind, that was very expensive.
Yeah, I'm not sure why he moved out at all. I feel like that's the first big problem right there. And now Stats coming in, getting some fantastic surface area. Again, the Phoenixes, MVPs here lifting up those Immortals.
Yeah, please pick up that Phoenix. Finally, it does go down. ShoWTimE doing a good job in saving the Archons, but does he have enough? He's going to warp in a few more Zealots. Can he get the Prism there with the Stalkers? Yes, he can. That should be massive. Does he now have enough to stabilize? I think he does.
I tell you, if he didn't lose those first 2 Immortals in the retreat, this would be even better. But as is, I mean, even having these Blink Stalkers is pretty useful at the moment. ShoWTimE looking strong, and Stats does not really have that many probes at his 3rd yet. No. But I guess ShoWTimE actually is not not looking super keen as far as economy either.
He lost a couple probes in the natural to the 2 Adept.
Yeah.
And he also was forced to pull some probes during that battle because the battle didn't start off that well because he moved out initially. But in the end, it was a good hold. ShoWTimE absolutely still in this one. Shame that he couldn't get that final Immortal there because it was just 3 naked Immortals running home.
Yeah.
So that would have been very sweet. I mean, economy is very important now, though, and Stats can basically just mass Zealots, and ShoWTimE is going to have a very tough time dealing with that because he's down, 12, 13 warriors.
Yeah, it's certainly very true. And look at this, he's making a Phoenix at home to deal with this incoming Prism. He knew this was coming. This is really the move that you have to do as ShoWTimE, but it's... Yeah, he forces a recall immediately.
Oh, Stats is so annoying.
Oh my gosh.
How many probes did Stats kill this game? I feel like it's over 20 already by now.
Yeah, look at that. Oh my god.
In a low eco game like this, obviously we've seen games where people kill 70 or 80 workers. But this has been a couple workers here, a couple workers there, and over time this has really been hurting ShoWTimE. Because if he wasn't that far behind economically right now, we'd still be kind of digging his position after the previous fight.
Oh, absolutely. And it's too bad because I felt like he was behind for a little bit, but tactically he was maneuvering so well. He was making a ton of great moves there and actually outclassing Stats in a lot of ways. But just that engagement where he walked away from his Nexus and his battery, it was, oh man.
And then he just ignored the 2 Phoenixes that were low HP, lifting 2 Immortals. This is going to be a very, very tough hold. Then again, Archons with a shield battery. I mean, Stats is very Zealot heavy there. I know he's up like 25 supplies, so this is going to be very difficult. But can ShoWTimE make a miraculous hold happen?
I would be really surprised about that. Here we go. He actually gets a lot of those Zealots stuck behind. A very good spot to take the engagement at ShoWTimE, but it is not going well right now. So many units from Stats. The Zealots finally finding their surface area, and GG is called. Stats will win this group 2-0 over ShoWTimE.
Stats looking very good, going 4-0 today, showing us that he's ready at least to play some PvP. And for ShoWTimE, I mean, that game 1 you could say like, it's a Phoenix against Phoenix game, it didn't really work out. But game 2 he was playing well. And maybe he just got overeager. Maybe it's the adepts that kind of tilted him in the natural.
Yeah.
Like, you know what? Let's just fight. But he didn't have to do that.
No, it felt like he was actually getting himself into a marvelous spot with how quick his base was. But, you know, a couple missteps here and there, and the best Protoss in the world is gonna get you. All right, let's go ahead, throw it to the desk, the couches, the seats. What are we calling that? I don't know. Claire's and the boys, talk to us.
There's a small little desk in front of us.
It's a desk. We're calling it the desk.
Is this the desk? A coffee
Yeah.
table.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, there you go. Stats is able to advance on into the round of 8, so congratulations to him. Although that second game, I feel like a lot of us feel like ShoWTimE kind of misstepped there. What's the rationale behind the move out?
Well, I mean, it's impossible to like look at it and think this is the exact clean logic he was, unless you're in that game playing on the stage against, again, a player like Stats. I do like what they kind of touched on. Maybe it was that little adept kind of counterattack at the natural that makes you say, I need to make something happen right now, otherwise I'm going to just keep falling further and further behind. But it was, I also like what Artos said too, where you make that kind of mistake and it becomes the defining moment, which of course to us becomes like really bad. But for you in that game, playing against someone like Stats, you only get one or two of those mistakes and then you lose. So it's forgivable, I would say. Good performance otherwise. But again, I know that this weekend's kind of silly, but it's nice seeing Stats look that good, right?
Yeah.
Like that level of play going into that final BlizzCon weekend, playing for $280,000 for first place. I want to see somebody stand up to Serral and Maru. I almost call him Saru, which is like, well, that kind of works. Serral and Maru. It would be kind of silly if it was just the two of them that were playing on that level and nobody else was near. Stats is saying, hey, what about me? He's the best Protoss.
It's safe to say. He's
warmed
up, right?
He is warmed up.
And I think it's also safe to say he is still the best Protoss that we got now, man.
I heard Brody say a
of, like-
couple times that Classic was the best.
Yeah, we were thinking
so-
Classic. We've talked about even SOS.
Yeah.
And it's only best of 3. So, we don't get to necessarily be like, oh, they're super dead. No one's eliminated till Sunday. We'll see. But for right now, my money on in terms of what players are looking like in these series, Stats you got to be impressed with.
Yeah,
They played
yeah,
amazing, this whole group.
Overall, very impressive to see Stats actually advancing on, and I think that a lot of us kind of expected that Todd, him coming in and looking as powerfully as he has throughout 2018.
Yeah, for sure. He's like always so consistent, and I think it wouldn't be surprising to even see him make it, to the semifinals, maybe even grand finals.
Yeah.
So I hope he continues on doing well. And like a lot of people, they will look at this matchup against ShoWTimE and they will say, no, it's normal that Stats is beating ShoWTimE. But actually, that's very impressive because I think ShoWTimE has been playing pretty well today as well. So, and ShoWTimE, on the other hand, he falls here. I expect a rematch against Dark.
Well, yeah, we can head over to the interview now and see exactly how things are going to be going down. Let's hear from Stats advancing on to the round of 8.
Thank you very much, guys. And now we know the third player joining the round of 8. Congratulations, you're joining Maru and Serral into round of 8. And you won 2-0, but game 2, it was pretty close. Were you ever worried? 8강 진출 축하드립니다. 이제 2-0으로 이기셨지만 2세트 때 약간 진짜 막상막하였어요. 약간 좀 걱정했던 부분이 있었나요?
아무래도 좀 2세트 때 제가 좀 빌드 싸움도 지고 그래가지고 좀 게임이 좀 불리할까봐 약간 이런 걱정이 좀 많았었는데요. 어찌 이렇게 계속 끝까지 집중하면서 경기를 잘 풀어 나갔던 게 오늘 2-0으로 이길 수 있었던 승리의 요인이었다고 생각을 합니다.
It's true that in game 2, I had a weaker build actually, but I stayed focused and I was relaxed and I was like, okay, if I can play like this, I could win, and that's what I did. And I'm really relieved that I could win the game 2. And actually, you're here with Coach Ryu Won. So he was a former coach from Jinair, KT. And so how did it help you prepare for this tournament? 이번에 류원 코치님과 같이 오셨는데 어떤 도움을 받으셨나요?
재작년 때 그 KT 시절 때 같이 블리즈컨을 왔었어요. 원희 형이. 원희 형하고 이렇게 같이 와서 원희 형이 지금은 그 회사에 이렇게 근무하시고 계시지만은 아직 게임적으로 이렇게 좀 아시는 게 많더라고요. 그래서 게임적으로도 도움을 받고 또 그리고 게임 외적으로 이런 멘탈적인 그런 부분들을 이렇게 케어 받아가지고 오늘 이렇게 올라갈 수 있었던 것 같아요.
So I came here with the coach, and actually I was already with him here when I was in KT 2 years ago. And even if he's now working in a company, like he's not into gaming industry, he still knows the game really well. So he gave me some advice, and even outside the game, he takes care of me like mentally. And I think it's thanks to him I can advance to this round of 8. And now, last question. There's so many good players here, and now you're in round of 8, and you're gonna face the best in the world. Is there a player that you really want to avoid until the finals? 정말 세계에서 제일 잘하는 선수들만 모인 자리인데 결승 저는 좀 이 선수는 만나기 싫다. 약간 그런 선수가 있나요?
아무래도 좀 성주나 세랄 선수하고는 만나기 싫은 건 당연하고요. 그 외에도 제가 요즘에 전진배력 때문에 좀 테란전을 많이 좀 못 이기겠어서 테란을 웬만하면은 좀 피하고 싶습니다.
So of course I want to avoid Maru and Cyril, but more generally, I really hate the proxy Rex build right now, so I just want to avoid all the Terrans. Congratulations again and best of luck for the round of 8. It was great talking with you. Back to you, James.
Thank you very much. And once again, really good insight to hear, especially also from Stats about how his coach is actually helping him through this stuff, not only in game, but also out of game. And I think having that strong balance actually allows you to perform even better when it comes to things like StarCraft.
Well, he talked about his mentality in particular, and I think this is a really underrated part of StarCraft, but a lot of times you're so alone in the game, you definitely practice and you talk to other people, sure, but when it comes to competition, people tend to be very alone, but if you have someone to bounce ideas off of Vent, or even just talk about your thoughts, literally just getting them outside of your head, essentially, is actually really therapeutic and really good for you because you can kind of hear yourself say it. And then all of a sudden those ideas where you're like, maybe I will upgrade Adept Glaives and make my entire game about that. And then your coach is like, don't be a fool. And you're like, you're right, I'm being a fool. And then they don't do it. That's the kind of stuff that can happen. But a lot of times, sometimes those ideas, including my entire career as a player, you're like, what if? And then no one's like, no, it's a bad idea. You're like, yeah, that's what I'm going to do then. So it's pretty cool to see. He's got a little bit of a support network around him, and that level of support is necessary for this caliber of game.
And it's very rare as well, I think. In a game like StarCraft, like for people, obviously, you know, there used to be like Kesper teams and there were a bunch of coaches, but nowadays there aren't too many anymore. And like for a solo player to be one of the best in the world and be like, this guy who I'm a lot better than at the game is going to give me advice and keep me honest, and I'm going to listen to him. There has to be like real trust there. So it's rare, but I guess it works out sometimes.
And it's happening, you're right, it's rare, but it's cool where it does happen, right? Like No Regret I think of as a kind of a mentor figure to a lot of these non-Koreans that are getting awesome results. I know that Scarlett, one of the players we're missing here in these finals, throughout her career, she's always had players that she relies on to bounce ideas off and talk to. So it's really cool to hear that from Stats, because we definitely had that with the pro gamer houses, but since we haven't had as much of that, it's cool to see that that still continues for some players.
You're totally right. I mean, this is one of the big things that makes StarCraft different from other team gaming sports. This is the most intense 1v1 esport. And to what you were saying, Jeff, it can be a little bit weird, right? I mean, especially if you're a free agent like a lot of these guys are right now. The fact that you got to go on stage, everybody's watching you, you got to get yourself ready before the match, in the game, keep cool. No matter how good you are when you practice at home, there is that weird feeling when you're playing and everybody's watching and it's being casted and we're here on these couches talking about it. That's tough. So that's cool to see that he has that kind of support.
You sound like you would be a great coach, Tasteless.
I'd probably be the worst coach in the world. I don't think so.
He'd keep you warmed up and loose, though, I guarantee it.
That is for sure. What do we think about ShoWTimE's chances to bounce back in this group?
That sets up a really interesting thing. We were talking a little bit about this, but it very likely is going to be, a dark rematch. And there is, I've always talked about this, but there's a funny thing where you knock a player into the lower part of these groups, that player oftentimes comes back to that decider match and very often wins. I would say more often than not. Now, that, of course, is all subjective. It's all very silly to kind of make that a real thing, but there is some psychology to that. But anyways, if Dark does beat Haz, which he will be the hilarious, gross favorite to do so, it sets up ShoWTimE versus Dark, where ShoWTimE won 2-0. But I think that'll be a really interesting rematch because, like Dark said, he wasn't in the best condition, sure, whatever. But also, those games were pretty close. It was a 2-0 score, but despite the bad opening for Dark in Game 1, it was a close series. It'll be